Matthew 24:14, and the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Now again, the end is relative to whatever our topic is. The end of what? The end of the Judaic age, as we've gone over so many times. But now, isn't this a massive problem for the way that we're teaching? I mean, goodness, look what Jesus is saying. The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world before the end comes.
Well, there's no way that happened.
There's no way, because I know for a fact they didn't make their way to Mexico. Right. They didn't make their way to the United States. They didn't make their way to Canada. I'm pretty sure they didn't find Japan or Hawaii, being islands. So obviously the end has not happened yet because the gospel wasn't preached in all the world. Now that might sound pretty convincing until one thing. We use the Bible as both our glossary and our dictionary.
There you go again.
I know it. We got to do that. By the way, let me show people this. We're almost through here. So let me show something. Let me go a little. Is that okay? Can you see that, Jimmy?
Yep, I can see it.
So he preached in all the world. Now, sometimes the world is cosmos. That's referring more to the earth. But sometimes this word right here, it's called oikumene. Oikumene. That's the word that's translated as world. Oikumene has the idea of the known world in the Roman Empire. Let me click on this so people can see. The inhabited world, the portion of the earth inhabited by the Greeks. Now, this is not Bible right here, so you can't always go by this, but this is the pretty well-accepted terminology. The Roman Empire, all the subjects of the empire. This is what it usually is talking about. Every great once in a while it's talking about the whole universe, but for the most part it's talking about the Roman Empire. Let me give you a couple of examples.
I like it when you pronounce the Greek words.
Oikumene, yeah, that's a good one.
Remember that time you pronounced the Greek word for woe?
Yes. I want to say hoorah, but it's,
yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, it's uai.
Uai.
Uai. Woe unto you, uai. See, folks, if anybody wants to complain the videos are too long, remember, Jimmy has caused us to rabbit trail.
Oh, sure, it's my fault.
Of course it is.
You know, when I edit these and I time up all of my words,
don't say
they
it.
equal
don't
2 minutes. No wonder your voice is gone.
Yeah, exactly. Luke chapter 2, verse 1. It came to pass in those days, there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the, what word do we think that is? That's oikumene. They weren't taxing America. They weren't taxing Cuba or Mexico. It was the world that they had at the time.
Yeah, Caesar Augustus could only demand that over the areas that he ruled, which was the Roman Empire.
Perfectly stated. So we would connect his name with just the Roman Empire. Acts 11, verse 28. There stood up one of them named Agabus and signified by the Spirit that there should be a great dearth throughout all the earth. We've already quoted this. There's the famine. And notice again, it's connected to Claudius Caesar. So we have the word world here, and it's connected to a famine throughout the area of Claudius Caesar. So there's more that we could go over. I guess I'll just do one more just for fun. I said that, but there's one after this I want to do too. My blading is not going over too well. Look at this. I'll just cut to the chase. Whom all Asia, that's the area above Israel, that we would know as Turkey or Asia Minor. It's not the continent, folks, just so you know that. It's the Roman-controlled province of Asia.
That's where all the churches of the book of Revelation were in. They were
chapters 2 and 3.
That was that whole Antioch, churches. Right? Asia Minor, they're in Turkey.
Yep, going up that horseshoe path of those 7 churches. And look what it says, and the world worshipeth. Okay, we'll do one in here in Romans chapter 10 and verse 18. He says, but I say, have they not heard? Yes, verily their sound went into all the earth, their words into the ends of the world. Now here, we're talking about the gospel. And this, interestingly, is actually, let's look at this real quick. This one is talking about all the ends of the oikumene. So we have that same word here, oikumene. Now, one more here in Colossians 1.
There's a couple times in Colossians 1, right?
There's a couple. Yeah, there's Colossians 1:23. Look at 23. If you continue in the faith, grounded and settled, be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which you have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven. Is Paul saying here that he found all of the cows in Florida and preached the gospel to them? That's what it says.
I know.
Of course not. No, it's saying that all of the people of the earth had at this point heard the gospel. Of course, we're talking about the oikumene. Here's verses 5 and 6. For the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, whereof you have heard in the word of truth of the gospel, which has come unto you, as it is in all the world. So we could go on, but that's good for now. I want you to notice a very interesting point here. Jesus says that the kingdom shall be preached for a witness. This is in terms of before a judicial punishment. Okay?
Okay.
It's a singular witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come. I want you guys to notice the structure of his argument compared to this, comparing it to Matthew 28 at the Great Commission. Totally different. All power is given to me in heaven and earth. Go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. In Matthew 24, the gospel goes out by a way of, I wouldn't say God protecting himself, but by a way of his judicial command is saying, you've all heard, and now the end is here. Compare that to Matthew 28, where he says, guys, I want you to go to people and teach them, baptize them, teach them all the things that I told you. In other words, disciple them. Totally different instructions. This has the idea of seeing the gospel be personalized to people, not just a way of justifying wrath, but actually seeing the globalization of Christianity. Different. I'm going to real quickly go to our last thing for today in Daniel 7. Now let's keep in mind what's going on. In the first century, Jesus is working in an area where it's controlled by the Roman government, the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is spoken of as the sea beast in Revelation 13. I'm not proving that right now. I'll go over that another time. And then we have left here this strange guardian relationship of this beast with Christians. They were actually protective. God used this guardian beast to protect Christians during this time period. In Daniel chapter 7, we have basically a timeline of everything that we've been reading tonight. Daniel sees four beasts. These are successive kingdoms. Let me show you what's going on here. Verse number 7, after this I saw in the night visions, behold, the fourth beast. Now that's Rome. Dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth. Remember, Rome, we always associate with iron. It devoured and brake in pieces, stamped the residue with the feet of it. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. It had 10 horns. We will get into all that when we do our Revelation study, much more detail. I considered the horns, so Daniel's trying to make sense of this. I considered the horns. Behold, there came up among them another little horn. We'll get into it later. Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Behold, the horns were like the eyes of a man, a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till thrones were cast down. That's the destruction of this image. How did that happen? The Ancient of Days, that's the Father, did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was pure like wool. His throne was like the fiery flames, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream came forth from before him. Thousands of thousands ministered unto him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. See, we have our Hebraic thousands here. It means many, 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 many. You're not supposed to get your calculator out and go, oh, I know that number. It means a massive number. It's the way 1,000 is used in the Bible. The judgment was set, the books were open. So here's the moment, guys. Jesus ascends in Acts chapter 1. The books are open in a courtroom setting. There's a hush. Then behold, the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain. That's after AD 70. because Rome goes on for a while and the Christians take them out. Not physically, but they overpower them with the gospel. His body's destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. They were still nations, but they didn't have the power. Folks might be saying, Ken, how do you know the timing of this? Look at verse 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man, that's Jesus. He came with the clouds of heaven and came to, where was he doing? Where was he coming from? The earth, Acts chapter 1, going up to the Father. And he came to the Ancient of Days. He is not going down from, he is going to. He's going up, not down. He came to the Ancient of Days. That's Acts chapter 1 in the Ascension. They brought him near before him. So they ushered, if you can imagine in Acts chapter 1, that scene that goes up, cut, Daniel 7:13. Now the cameras from heaven seeing him come up. The angels usher him before the Father. In verse 14, and what do? At that moment of Christ's ascension, the king is being coronated, and there was given him dominion. What did he say in Acts chapter 28? Behold, all power has been given unto me. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. There was given him dominion. Christ took back dominion and glory. That's the glory is the idea of the presence of the tabernacle, the presence of the temple, and a kingdom. That's me and you. Exciting. That all people, nations, and languages should serve him. That's a global, not just Hebrew, not just Israelites, global, all nations, all nations. That word nations in the Old Testament is Gentiles. His dominion is an everlasting dominion. No one's going to take Christ's rule away, which shall not pass away. His kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. But Daniel's sitting there, he's going, okay, these beasts are taken out. What's the deal with this fourth beast? It's troubling Daniel. It's Rome. And Daniel doesn't understand it. You and I have such an advantage on this side of the cross. Daniel had no idea.
Yeah, Rome didn't exist yet, right?
No, they certainly didn't have this power. So he says, I was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, the visions of the head, it troubled. What's going on here?
He was still dealing with the head of that statue, right?
Yeah.
Babylon,
look at
Nebuchadnezzar.
That's right. Look at chapter 2 for those that want to see that.
Yeah, he had to go through 4 different dynasties of power.
Yeah, and he was stuck in the first one.
Now.
Yeah, Babylon, Medes and Persians, the Grecians, that's Alexander the Great, the intertestamental period. That's the book of 2nd Maccabees, if you want to check out what was going on. And then the Romans were the legs of iron. He says, I came near unto one of them. Oh, and by the way, what's the end of Daniel 2? That little stone made without hands. That's the virgin birth, comes out of the mountain, strikes the image on the foot. The image falls over. And what happens to that little stone, guys? It grows in and becomes a mighty mountain. That's the gospel spreading over time. So he says, I came near to one of them that stood by me, and I asked him of the truth of all this. So he told me and made me known the interpretation. So Daniel goes over in the middle of this courtroom. He's like, hey, man, you know what's going on right now? Verse 17, these great beasts, which are four kings. We get that interpretation. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. This guy goes, yeah, you see the king on the throne? He's giving his kingdom forever and ever. They're going to possess it forever and ever. He's going to give it to the saints that are in his kingdom. But Daniel goes, but I still have a question about that fourth beast. The one that's still going on right now, I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped residue with his feet. I mean, a horrific image. He has 10 horns that were on his head, and of them which came up before whom 3 fell off. We will get into all of this when we get a little further in our revelation. All of this will make sense. It's just very easy to understand when you get it. I'm not saying it's not cryptic. It is, but we can understand it. Okay, verse 21. He says, I beheld the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them until when? The Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Now, this is probably right around the destruction of the temple and God's presence poured out in Acts chapter 2. All of these things are happening where the saints are given control. And we have dominion of the whole earth right now through the power of Christ. Hey, you want to change politics? Man, start witnessing to your neighbors. Start a prayer service at your local capital, whatever you want to do. We have the power to do this. Verse 23. The fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, that's Rome, which shall be diverse from all the kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth and tread it down and break it in pieces. The 10 horns out of the kingdom, or 10 kings, will identify all of them as we get going. Another shall arise after them, and it shall be diverse from the first. He shall subdue the 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until, how long, guys? A time. Times, that's 1 plus 2, and a dividing of a time, that's 3.5. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And to the kingdom of dominions and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. This is talking about the transition time of Christ coming and ending the reign of the kingdoms. All dominion is given to him when he ascends in Acts chapter 1. He's given the nations as his inheritance. Satan is kicked out, Revelation 2. And there's complete chaos on the earth from AD 30 to AD 70 at the culmination of, get this, we're almost done, but this is if you're still watching this long video, God used both the land beast, that's Israel, and the sea beast, that's Rome. Their purposes were done when the Messiah ascended into heaven and the temple was destroyed. Their purposes were done away with at that time. And God moved on to his plan in the new covenant. All right, so what we've covered is these 10 statements about things getting worse and worse. Endure to the end, you'll be saved. And the gospel of this kingdom is preached in all the world for a witness, and then the end shall come. The end of what? It's the end of the Judaic age. It's a sign of his coming, the destruction of the temple. When will these things be? So hopefully it's starting to make a little bit more sense to folks, and we'll pick up next time in verse number 15 with the oft misunderstood phrase, the abomination of desolation, again spoken by Daniel. We'll get into that next time.
If you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.